Even the guest of honor is bouncing around for the song. Welcome back to the Best Ball Happy Hour here at 4 for 4. As always, I'm your host, John Daigle, joined today by a very special group of friends. As always, we'll start off with none other than Pro Football Focus's Ian Hartitz. Ian, how's everything going for you?
Great day, be great, John. I love all these. I think I've only missed one so far this year, and let's keep it going, guys. And credit to you, Mr. Daigle, for continuing to give us some great guests, because I know Hayden sure hasn't had time lately.
Before we get to the guest of honor, let's go ahead and bring up Hayden Winks, who is here, but also he gets married in 48 hours, so I'm not sure why he's here, to be quite honest.
Well, because last time I was here for 4 minutes and then I had to leave, so I felt like I owed it to you.
Nonetheless, even when you weren't here and Ian wasn't here due to eating wings at the bar, y'all were still here in spirit. It's okay. Always one of us, two of us ideally will be here. And today we are joined by someone who I'm old enough to remember when he won Best Ball Mania before it became $1 million. He's still reaping dividends, though, from that. None other than Justin Herzig. Justin, how's it going, buddy?
God, it's going fantastic. And I can tell you, I can't tell you what I was doing 48 hours before my wedding because my wife's over there and that was during the bachelor party, but I was not on a stream doing best ball content. So what a professional, man. There it is.
I fly out to said wedding in 12 hours too. So Hayden's obviously the more busy one, but nonetheless, there's a lot going on. So anyways, gentlemen, we are here for another Best Ball Mania 3 draft. And I actually want to get started with you, Justin, because the rest of us will give takes as we go along. But so far, what has been your strategy when opening up the lobby, which is what I'm actually going to do right now, and enter the Best Ball Mania draft since we're 10 days in?
My strategy has been trying to exercise restraint and wait until today because release the schedules already. How much longer do I have to wait? No, I think I've done 3 of them so far, like literally trying to wait for these schedules and doing it just to get that feel and such. And it's crazy to see those ADP movements and stuff. And you expect it obviously from those first kind of week and such, but it's great to see like we're starting to get into like, okay, we see these patterns. We can start formulating some strategy aspects. And gosh, it's only May.
Hayden, your thoughts so far since you're the data keeper over there?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where I'm like starting to figure out where the pockets of strengths at each position are. So I do all this data research. I'm posting these charts and all that stuff. And then I can be like, double RB, superhero RB was super successful last year. But then if you look at it and you're picking 10th overall this year, which 2 running backs are you drafting? So I'm starting to get into that phase where I think ADP now is getting to the point where it's like probably not going to see too much movement at this point for the next couple of months. I think we'll have a better idea of like if you're drafting top 5, are you going wide receiver RB? We're going to figure out like those type of discussions next.
I keep trying to remind myself that we will definitely get opportunities to draft those that we are not being able to draft right now. For instance, maybe we all have different strategies, but like I can't get Breece Hall right now with what I'm doing. But I'm telling myself, no big deal. I will eventually get him in a couple months. Ian, I know you, Dwayne McFarland, also Nathan Janke, I believe it was, did
Yankee,
Yankee did a draft at Best Ball draft at Pro Football Focus. What were some of your takeaways?
I ended up going 3 running backs to start because I got like CMC, Fournette, and Connor, who I'm surprised that Fournette and Connor are kind of still where they are. They still haven't quite creeped in the top 10 like I was expecting. So the wide receiver range seems pretty nice. I'm not saying I'm going to go 3 every draft, but we've talked about that. I mean, that's the dirty little secret about whatever you want to call your draft style. Like I think they all can kind of work in different formats depending on what's happening. So being flexible with it is probably going to be the best move. But the 2 overarching ideas I think that I've seen kind of maintain true. I don't want much to do with these early round tight ends, and I'm okay waiting on a quarterback for a while. So I happily pulled Gronk is falling to like round 11 or later, and then you can literally use your last round pick on Cam Brate, and like you got a tight end 1 either way. So I know we have our handcuffing stuff, but when it's 2 late round picks like that, I don't mind as much.
And 6-mans and 12 teams that I've been hammering just to make sure I get my ROI back since I'm not going to win the $2 million. I have been treating it as 4 tight end builds, even if I have Gronk, just because I can't take that 0 for a floor at the most volatile position. But Justin, let's come to you. How have you been handling tight end in a top heavy payout tournament with 415,000 entries like this one?
Yeah, I think right now it's all about like where those ADPs land. And right now there are a lot in that post 145, post 150 ADP. You got first overall. So if you want to take the honors there, go for it. I don't think anyone's going to fight you if you want to go for that safe Taylor pick.
I think we have to take the Taylor pick, if only because you don't get Taylor usually if you're 1-2 or 1-3. It has to be 1-1. And so you just go ahead and get the exposure in right now, even if you disagree. So
yeah, I love that. I think Christian McCaffrey, like if I was actually doing my rankings, I have him number 1, but if I'm taking Christian McCaffrey here, I'm never going to end up with JT. And so that thought process is perfect, and why I'll probably still take JT 1 overall, at least for now.
I was ready to go CMC over Jonathan Taylor, and then the Panthers did absolutely nothing to help the quarterback room the entire offseason. But it really is a lot closer than people make it out to be, for sure.
O-line's better.
Touches, though.
Yeah, O-line's better. He got the touches last year, and Sam Darnold was like hurt all last year. If he's healthy, I think the team will be a little bit better in the first place.
I also think Deonta Foreman may actually help CMC and keep him healthier as well, because we're not expecting Deonta Foreman to get like the high leverage touches. We're not going to get any passing work, and he's probably not going to get the work outside the 20s. And so I'm okay with CMC coming off the field a little for those kind of lower leverage situations. They didn't trust, Hubbard, but I think Foreman is a good enough runner and such. So that doesn't scare me at all when I'm thinking about my CMC evaluation.
it's also a good time to jump in and draft, because it's not a time we should be worrying about exposures, right? Like I'll hedge the exposures in a couple months. Like right now, I'm just trying to get all the guys. I'm trying to get all my players in, and then I'll worry about being too overweight on, say, Dallas Goedert, because it seems like literally every draft room tight end stops at Dallas Goedert, and then the other 11 people play chicken with one another, being like, well, I'm not going to take him, so you take him. I like Dallas Goedert, but it always comes down to he's the one who dips like 2 or 3 rounds, and then the tier break happens.
Hey, speaking of Foreman, though, like when you start getting to the final few rounds, there's him and Hassan Haskins that are like the last remaining guys that you could maybe figure out a scenario where they end up, taking a leap with just one injury away. Like they're not the same sort of handcuffs as like Madison or Pollard or something like that, but they're still looking pretty damn good. And I go back like to last preseason when like Chuba Hubbard was suddenly in on like every single first team rep in the preseason, and all of a sudden he was this dirt cheap handcuff that became a lot more valuable. So I know it didn't quite work out with Chuba, but he did get that opportunity. He just didn't run with it as well as Mike Davis did the year before. So Haskins and even Deonta Foreman, who did a pretty good, like middle-class man's version of Derrick Henry last year, I think at cost right now, they're perfectly fine.
I think from a strategy element of that last pick, it's really interesting. And you think of the best case scenario is, would you rather have, and so when we think about what we're trying to hit with that last pick, we're thinking about, okay, what is the upside scenario and what's the likelihood of that upside scenario? And so if we use St. Brown as like an example of a last round pick for the wide receiver, like obviously that's such a rarity, but there still is the possibility. And I think wide receivers have a better chance of kind of getting on the field and kind of showing their prowess, showing their skills without that injury. But then you consider like with the running back situation, and as you mentioned, like the Hubbard, where all you need is one injury, he's now the bell cow, but he still wasn't able to do what CMC is. And so I think that evaluation is interesting. If I can find the running back that I feel like can produce at that 80% of the starter, I think I lean that way. And so like in the past, that was Hubbard, it was, Benjamin, and in those roles, I'm still trying to figure out right now who that is. And I think there's a couple rookies that I like that we can get into, but I still want to make sure if I'm going for that running back, it's not, this person's then going to get increased touches and it's going to be a timeshare. I want the one that has that opportunity for maybe an actual bell cow.
I think the last component that I'm looking at with these backups is who is the starter that's going down. Like to me, like Josh Jacobs' backup isn't that intriguing to me, because if the Josh Jacobs team is eliminated, that doesn't matter to me. But if I have Nyheim Hines, that means that Jonathan Taylor isn't running away from the field. So I'm curious about CMC, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, their backups, because that means you've eliminated one of those top teams from the board.
I like that. By the way, Hines is going to be like a 13th rounder in a week or two, like a couple of weeks.
I love Hines.
Yeah.
There are a couple of those guys who are hanging around at the end that it's like, well, give it a month, give it a couple weeks. Yeah. And their ADP will boost about a few rounds.
Yeah. I just worry about Hines. I mean, he would get a handful more carries per game, obviously, if Taylor goes down, but I don't know. I see the point about Jonathan Taylor with it also involved, and that probably makes it worth it, but we're on the clock.
This is where we are now, Justin. You're the guest of honor. What would you usually do in this position with the 1-1?
All right. Can you click up wide receiver so we can see it all? I would have loved Kamara. Click wide receiver.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. So I think I think I'd probably go Chubb and go with the ADP aspect there. Because if I'm going running back, it's definitely him in this situation. And now we get a discussion of, do we really want to start with just a hardcore 3 RB team? I just don't love Tyreek Hill. Like, I don't love any of the other plays right now. If you go tight end,
Fournette.
Mark Andrews already gone too.
Fournette, it's only a 4
Yeah, Mark Andrews went first round. We'll talk about that in a second.
I think I agree with Fournette. And like, I don't like starting 3 running backs, but I also am not going to reach. It's not even reaching, but grab a player like Tyreek Hill that I just think it's not the right spot at all for him.
Now we can just spray wide receivers. Is what I did yesterday. I'm happy. I'm not freaking crazy over here.
It's a good time to mention that TJ Hernandez has done a breakdown at 4for4.com, and he even mentioned that right now, if we're only speaking of advancing to the final rounds of the past 2 Best Ball Mania, of course, Herzig, you're very familiar with the first one. Superhero RB build seems to be the trend, and that starting with 2 strong running backs in the first 3 rounds, ideally first 2, but first 3 rounds, and then 2 quarterback builds in round 6 through 9. Very easy to remember. A very nice round to grab your quarterback in round 6 through 9, and then wide receivers from there. And so that's sort of what we just did, and that we are basically guaranteing, I'm assuming, we're not going to draft another running back until like past round 10.
Well, Daigle, I actually call this the modified 0 RB, but you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm honestly glad that people came around to it. I know they needed last year's data to it, but the whole not wanting to draft like 2 RBs in the first 2-3 rounds was just taken way too far last year, and I think it was a disservice to a lot of the people who were drafting. They're hearing this and they're like, okay, I got to go having the wide receivers. The balance of these drafts just shifted too much, but the content that was being put out there didn't adjust with it.
I didn't play the puppy 2 or 3 because I was so sick of the wide receiver ADP. I was like, why am I going to get in here and try to jam in receivers in the first 5 rounds? Like, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I agree. Also, we always forget that running backs have higher ceilings than wide receivers. The issue is you got to get the running backs right. And for those that had Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, they were just fine in drafting running back heavy. So it was okay.
To me, the wide receivers moving up into the top, if we're moving the wide receivers up, from typically a round 4 wide receivers now going round 3, that's totally fine with me. I just never agreed with having 5 stud wide receivers the first 6 rounds and then still drafting 10 wide receivers. I was like, at some point, you are just hedging against yourself. You can't have it both ways. Just because what if one of my wide receivers gets hurt? Well, that's the whole point of going 0 RB in the first place. So yeah, enough already.
We're taking one more running back. That's it, right?
And I know on a live stream, and I don't care, I'm going to say it, but if I had this build, I think I would go for Nyheim Hines. And I think that fits. My one risk right here is the bye week issue. And I won't want to have 3 guys on 1 bye, and we don't have the bye weeks yet. So that'd be my one hesitation. But after the conversation we've been having and such, and the way that I've kind of been moving towards this handcuff, I think that'd be a really fun 4 RB situation.
What is the overarching backup RB situation that I've seen mentioned?
It's broken my brain, Daigle.
From the podcast between you and Leone, because I am going to get to it. I mean, I just mentioned earlier on the show, I have a flight tomorrow. That's what I'm waiting for to listen to it. So go ahead and explain now what I'm in for.
Yeah. So I started experimenting with it last year, but I didn't think it was the right play because I think enough people were still doing handcuffs and you didn't need as much upside with the final round. I think this year, with it being 470 teams in the final week, I think you need to get a little unique for how can you get an outlier team in that 470. My Kamara team there was only 50 of them, and that was just kind of luck as well, kind of with the rest of the team was really good. So Kamara's bad weeks didn't hurt. With 470, I don't think you're going to get that just lucky have that one player. So can you construct teams that have a better chance of maybe something wonky happening? And so in this world, it's those 3 playoff weeks, JT maybe is fully healthy, goes ham, gets you to advance, but gets hurt in that week 16 game. So now week 17, you need the Nyheim Hines. Majority of teams aren't handcuffing. JT is going to be very high owned in that 470. Nyheim Hines is going to be very low owned, and he might be the player you need. Or vice versa. Maybe JT was hurt. Hines has 2 great weeks in weeks 15 and 16 to get you there. Now JT is back, and he's very low owned because JT didn't play, so those teams got eliminated. Now you've got a very unique team week 17. Is it likely? No, definitely not. But when you're playing for $2 million and trying to beat out 469 people in that finals, I think there's a decent chance for it.
Hayden, initial thoughts, if you can piece your brain together.
It's smart. I think it's smart. I think there's also something to just like throughout the season. Like if we have 4 or 5 running backs, and I think in this build, using the 4-4 tools, you can have either 4 or 5 running backs with the robust RB, assuming that the next one's not coming to like round 12 or whatever. But I think there is a little bit something to best ball where you don't need the perfect score every single week. And if JT misses two games in week 8 and 9, I think it's fine to kind of like plug in Nyheim Hines for 16, 17 points those two weeks. So like obviously this is just hoping that JT only misses 1 or 2 games. Like you don't want to, the handcuff strategy is kind of like hoping that he misses like only 2 or 3 games throughout the season. You're getting something unique, but I think it's smart.
What's up?
I love Lamar. I don't know about you guys. This is where like, hey, the wide receivers over the next 2-3 rounds, like there's not huge gaps, but I think like there's a couple elite running QBs that are still in this area. So Lamar would be my choice here.
Is Mike Williams gone? Just curious. I like Herbert
Lamar?
Williams. He's probably gone. Yeah,
He is gone.
I
You
think
go-
Terry.
yeah.
Wide receiver 23 for Terry McLaurin? What the
Yeah.
hell?
So my only thought here is I'm trying to think through stacks, and we just got Lamar, so I'm trying to think. Okay, I only want one other quarterback. Is there another? Like I'm not. So you can start McLaurin. Like I think that makes sense. But I don't know. Like if I want to go Lamar and Wentz, maybe.
Daigle,
not
cue
the
him.
worst. Yeah.
My God.
Otherwise, we're gonna end up with a Herbert Lamar stack, or not stack, just dual.
Completely unstacked. I mean,
go for it.
just this. So there's like a discussion about reaching. Rashad Bateman, how much are you willing to reach to fill that stack? That would have been about 15 spots ahead of ADP. In theory, none of these teams should be like going out of their way to get Rashad Bateman because we already have Lamar Jackson. So the question is it worth trying to get that superstar team where like you get Rashad Bateman at the end of the 6th round and that's like a good value and you got the stack? Or do you just want the exposure and like, it's basically like, do I want to play for like the superstar team and you're basically eliminating like a couple of your 150 lineups, or do you want to say, screw it, I want all my teams to at least have a chance and reach for Bateman there?
I think you're asking the right question. In general, I'm going to not reach. I'm especially not going to reach on a quarterback who's getting his points like Lamar does. If I'm drafting a Joe Burrow or something where like his success is going to be dependent upon like, his guys going off, that's where maybe I'd be willing to reach on Tyler Boyd if you only got Higgins or Chase or something, or one of those type QBs. But no, I don't think there's a guaranteed answer for this. I think you're asking the right question.
This
No,
is why
We're
I'll-
getting later, though. Let's get some Devin Duvernay in like round 17.
Yeah, I love Duvernay.
This is why it's also been tough for me to get Lamar, because like in this range, in the back of the drafts, like you can let Kyler Murray around round 5 or 6 get there, and it's pretty easy to stack him with Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz, and so that's kind of where I've been at, and that's why I've been getting less Lamar, because after Goddard, the room also then stops for a couple rounds at Zach Ertz. No one wants to take him at all, despite averaging 8 targets per game without Hopkins last year. Yes, Marquise Brown's there, but still a target on.
Kyler has the highest ceiling of any quarterback.
Why
I
is
think
Kyler going
Josh
so
should be
low?
wrong, but
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
I don't know. He's
I
not
wonder if it's just
QB2.
that last injured month. Like I've been trying to figure out that out as well, which is also why I keep coming back to Kyler and Jalen Hurts builds. It's like, okay, I'll take the rushing quarterbacks and I get my 2 quarterbacks in the rounds that show the highest advance rate. So like, that's why I'm drafting so heavily early, because I want those 2 specifically.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is weird with Lamar though, because like Bateman just went, his 2 top pass catchers are like clearly above the rest when it comes to just like projected targets. And if you do draft Lamar, we basically are going like naked Lamar. I mean, Devin Duvernay, you'll get a little bit of correlation, but like you're really risking it because there's a huge drop off in like how correlated those teams are.
They got to add Landry. Like Jarvis Landry was born to be a Baltimore Raven.
I can see Julio too.
They always take in the veteran guy that's never won with speed, and he comes in and will have like 2 productive years and then probably never have a good year again.
I also think their draft in their offseason though showed us like they never want Lamar to run that offense again. Like that was 5 more pass attempts per game than he had ever attempted before in any season. In his MVP year, like he threw 20 more touchdowns in 3 fewer games. Like they want the pass attempts at minimum, they want efficiency, and they want him to strictly stay like running the offense via running the ball. And so like if we get that, that's still great for Lamar, but it necessarily doesn't mean we need to double stack him. And so that's why I still kind of like Lamar in that offense too.
Yeah, I have no concern with going with even just a naked Lamar aspect in these drafts because I'm going for those points on the ground. The Ravens offseason has been definitely interesting around the running back position, bringing in Melvin Gordon, signing Mike Davis. Either they just really do not like Gus Edwards or something wrong with him from an injury-wise, or I think it's an and/or they really want to get back to pounding the ground and using that kind of dual running back, and Lamar is the triple.
So we're still waiting on RB, clearly. Wide receiver. We can also discuss when we draft tight end in this range, but this is where we're at right now.
Thielen.
The usual.
Yeah. This is Drake London for me, for sure.
We could take both.
Yeah.
Justin, your thoughts on this group of wide receivers?
Let's go with Drake. I like that. Sell me on Thielen over Mooney.
We can stack with Kirk Cousins.
Score touchdowns.
Yeah, and Thielen's better than Mooney.
Yeah.
You could still do Fields too, but yeah.
I'm coming around more to the number 2 wide receiver and a better offense that might get 15 or 20 fewer targets than the number 1 like Mooney or Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
Another
argument is we're going to have a ton of wide receivers. Does Hopkins fit this team if we're playing for the playoffs? I kind of like that. That'd be my lean. We're going to have it. Yeah. But I'm okay
Hayden?
with.
Yeah, I just don't know about like the Kyler stacking situation about that. Yeah, I could be. I love DeAndre Hopkins still.
Let's go Thielen. I like the Cousins aspect.
I will say I do take Hopkins in almost every Kyler stack. Like it's the perfect situation because he's the one who continues to dip. So that's when I take him. I don't think I've taken any standalone just yet, but yeah, I'm definitely listening to that conversation because just like, well, I want to say like Michael Thomas last year, but that obviously failed immensely. But yeah, I do think he comes back. He'll be just fine in week 7.
Yeah, the problem with DeAndre is like on this team, we're naked Lamar. Like if DeAndre has 3 touchdowns that game, that Kyler Murray team's with DeAndre Hopkins is going to be looking really good. It's going to be like kind of hard to like compete with that team. So
yeah, but I mean, like what? Kyler throwing 3 passing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns is not that much different than Lamar rushing for 1 and throwing for 2. Like I don't know, Lamar's the unique aspect where just from his rushing game, he can still put up that 25-30, and you're not that much behind any other QB.
I also like DFS. I like trying to still get a quarterback-less stack on an offense I expect to throw a ton. So, like, I still like running out Adam Thielen and Irv Smith without Kirk Cousins if we don't get there. Whereas, like, Darnell Mooney, like, it's whatever. Like, it's fine, whatever. He'll have his games, but, man, the offense.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Didn't last year go perfect for Mooney? Robinson goes hurt, wasn't even the number 1 out there. He got like 135 targets or something. He was a wide receiver 31. Like, what's really going to change?
Justin Fields. You're making a bet that Justin Fields elevates. Last year, he only played like half the games, fewer than that. That's why you would have to draft Fields to go with him because you're making a bet that they're going to both substantially outperform their ADP.
He's not bad by any stretch. He had that like 70-yard screen touchdown where he looked really good after the catch. Like we've seen it, but I don't really think he's like, I don't think of him like a Deontay Johnson. And we've even talked about Deontay being a little bit overvalued. Like, I don't know. Most stats say that Mooney is, not to, what did Orlovsky say? Like, he's not even like a number 2. I think he is a number 2 receiver, but I don't know about number 1.
I agree. Justin Fields is not a bet I've been personally making given the surrounding situation. It's not anything on Justin Fields. Like the offensive line got worse and the offense got worse. That's my concern.
They did nothing to help him. They did nothing to help him.
Literally, absolutely nothing. Like the wide receiver core is a joke right now, but it's not even on that. Like, dude, the offensive line is genuinely fucking atrocious. It is worse than the Falcons' offense. It is so bad, and that's my concern.
I'm not sold with the coaches either.
I'm not either.
Can't be worse than last year.
We'll see.
Hayden, have you done any research on like how often does a good fantasy wide receiver or tight end come out of just terrible offenses? Because like that's what we have to target with most of these first round wide receivers and stuff. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown happened last year. Like you get some, but I wonder if it's for every running back's a little different, but for every James Robinson, if there's just like 10 busts behind it.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't done that.
That's what like DeAndre Swift is such an interesting conversation because like if they're a good team, I still think they're getting overrated by a lot of people, but if they're a good team, like Swift is not in the situation that made him a good fantasy player last year. And that's what I kind of worry about his ADP getting inflated for that.
I do wonder. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
I think that's why he has a high floor, but not that high ceiling. Because if they're doing horrible, he catches passes. If they're doing really well, he'll have more touchdown efficiency, but he's not going to ever turn into that Jonathan Taylor role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to jump on Jamal Williams late, but we saw that he was kind of hurt last year.
He was hurt.
When Swift got hurt. Yeah, because we saw him play the every down role with the Packers, and I mean he was legit enough at it. So what? Yeah, I think maybe not 90% or anything, but he could be like a 70% lead back if Swift missed time.
So this is where I usually end up sucking it up and grabbing Goddard, but I'm listening. If someone has an argument,
I don't want Goddard.
We don't have to. We don't have to.
We're going to be going with a 2 QB build. We kind of accept that, which means I'm more willing to go with a 3 tight end build, which in that situation, and since we didn't have any like elite wide receiver, I'd still probably go back-to-back wide receiver here.
I like Olave.
I'm good with that too.
Okay.
There are increased reports, and I think as we're going to continue to hear them, he may be the number 1 in New Orleans, and there's still a chance that like we don't know what's going to happen with Michael Thomas.
I'm looking at other stacking options as well for our QB2.
Hey, is Rodgers still there? How late is Rodgers going to be there, if at all? No. Okay. Shut up, Ian.
You're good. You're good.
I'm fine with Christian Kirk too.
Oh, yeah.
Lazard too. I like Lazard.
What about Gallup?
Christian Kirk over Lazard.
Yeah, I would go Kirk.
Too much injury concern with Gallup? That's fine with Kirk.
Right, yeah. It looks like Gallup may not actually come back until like October. Yeah, there's concern there.
It always worries me when they say when they don't give him camp, they always say he'll be ready for week 1, but not camp. It's always a little concerning. Same for Chris Godwin. Always a little concerning.
Jalen Tolbert's interesting later. He's like an even cheaper Russell Gage, like the number 3 wide receiver that could even be a number 2 for a little bit. I like Gage as well.
Like for redraft purposes, it would not be shocking at all, honestly, if Jalen Tolbert outperformed Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, all these guys with terrible quarterback situations.
Yep. Dude, like the first 5 wide receivers drafted are all in like question marks. Like, like Tannehill's the best quarterback out of it. And then everyone else on day 2 it just starts falling the best offenses out there.
All right. So in this situation, I'm looking at we should start Cousins. And then I'm start thinking about if someone snipes us on Cousins, what is our backup plan? Because he's definitely our pick if he's available. I
think Trevor Lawrence has to be in the backup plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look at wide receivers real quick. Guess we already got Kirk.
MVS, of course, we're smashing it.
I think.
Hold on, we could go with a Goff, Jameson, Chark. Throwing it out there.
I like the Patriots stack too. You can get Hunter Henry and Devontae Parker, and then pick a scrub tight end or wide receiver behind them with Mac Jones. Not my favorite, but.
It's better when you draft a good team, though, but I can see that.
They're going to pass way more. That's my take.
It's too early to
interesting.
It's too early to Gallup brain, but I also, since we have Olave, think Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill isn't a bad stacking option.
Taysom.
Backup tight end.
No, we're not taking Taysom. What the fuck?
I just hate Taysom.
I want to hear Hayden's New England take. I figure drafting 2 running backs, 5 running backs on the roster right now. Why do you think they're going to pass more?
Well, they got rid of their fullback, and like they interviewed the fullback, and he said that they're not going to use the fullback. They got rid of their guards, and I thought Mac Jones earned more pass attempts based off of his last year. They are wide receivers. Like, it's not a massive upgrade, but it's still better than it was last year. And I just think that Mac Jones was better in a spread RPO system at Alabama. I think they're going to go. I think the fullback and the moving of the guards. It's kind of on my radar. We'll see.
Interesting.
That should be an article titled "The Moving of the Guards." Why the Patriots are going to throw more. So you're right, but I was writing about. I've got my team preview series starting next week, and I was writing about the Patriots. Like Belichick is now taking over, and I saw the fullback thing. I think you were the first one to call that out, so kudos. But like Belichick has talked about, he's always had these meetings with Brady. Like I don't think they've been running like a different offense all these years. Like, and now Belichick has his chance to take over, and they were like literally like 28th, I think, in pass play rates. Like how far up do they need to go? And even then, I feel like with Mac Jones, like his ceiling is what, like a Cousins kind of, because we're just not getting.
I disagree. I think everyone keeps putting him in this bucket. He can be Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, all those guys, in my opinion.
I don't know if I'm necessarily high on him, but I know Kyle Shanahan wanted him last year and got peer pressured out of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
let's
100%.
go.
I mean, Hayden might be right. I just don't see that offense ever being what Matt
Yeah, I
Ryan
agree.
was throwing for 5,000 yards. And I think
Yes.
that's where, like, even the Kirk Cousins of right now, that offense still, like, she just throws it a ton, even with Dalvin back there and stuff. And I think that's my concern. Is not that the player can't be it, but the offense doesn't want it.
We
Yeah,
did
I don't
get
want
sniped.
Mac Jones stacks. It's just like you can backdoor into them.
Right.
All
No,
my
yeah.
works list. Yeah.
We got sniped on Cousins, by the way. No worries. It's okay. It allows us big picture takeaways to start focusing around. So Trevor Lawrence is another option. We don't necessarily have to get, well, we probably have to get one of them here, maybe. But
No, that's a reach. That's a reach.
okay. No big deal. We can also play backdoor into other stacks.
I
So
We
love the
backdoor
top
into
two wide-
Jets.
I love the top 2 wide receivers available right now, Claypool and
Yeah.
Marquez.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think that's the good value right now. And for a team that was like weak on wide receivers to start the draft, I feel a lot better after grabbing
We
those
caught
two.
up. Yeah, I think we caught up if we get these two.
I still, all right, the Pickens thing. At first I thought the Pickens thing was more of a negative for Claypool, but if they're just cool with him being their big slot man, that could be a fun time. Like, Hayden, I think you're with me. I don't think Deontay is like worlds better than Claypool. I just really don't. And maybe the Pickens pick shows that the Steelers, all right, hold on. We can make this pick and now I'll go on my rant.
I think it's MVS easily.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite
Yeah.
players.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Agreed. I think upside is unmatched at this point in the draft.
Oh yeah.
even talking about like offensive situation, even if Jameson Williams become a better NFL player, it doesn't matter for year one. MDS.
So I was talking with Leone about this, I think yesterday, the day before. Like, it sucks. Like, I really, before the draft, was all on Jameson. I thought I was going to be so overweight on him, was so pumped. But then where he ended up landing, the reports done, kind of the timeline for his injury, and where he's going in drafts, like, I'm just not going to have that much of him at this current ADP, and it makes me sad.
I don't think the landing spot is quite as bad. I mean, we've seen Goff and Abel, multiple guys. I understand Sean McVay was there at the same time, but the injury timeline definitely doesn't help if we're expecting October.
But I agree. But I think when I say landing spot, it is that's an offense that you're going to need time to get into. And then it's a lot of mouths to feed. So yes, Goff can support these, but like, you've got a lot of mouths there right now. And yeah.
That's why I think Hawkinson is pretty crazy overpriced. Like
I don't
he's
get
gonna
his ADP at all.
I'm not in on Hawkinson, and I think way too much of the, like people were giving Jalen Hurts a hard time for all the fourth quarter production. Like looking at DeAndre Swift mirror, my goodness.
I want to go back to the top of the show really quick, actually, because Hayden, recall you received a wedding tip to make sure you and the wife eat something the moment the ceremony ends. Justin, as the only other person here who is married, Ian's going to be joining you in a couple of years. But what is your tip for Hayden for this weekend?
That is fantastic advice. The other is, I would say, for the pictures, just
Yes,
Go in.
say this politely.
Here we go. Go into the pictures and like you need to have someone who is going to take control. And that person needs to have the authority, cannot be like half in, half out. And they just got to be like cracking that whip, like, okay, you're in, you're out. Let's go. Because otherwise it can take longer than an hour. And what happened for us is once it got off, like then somebody else tries to take control and then the list gets messed up and it just turns into a shit show. Like that was the number one. And like no one's comfortable unless the bride and groom or groom bride gives them the authority to say like, hey, you're going to take control. Tell us who needs to be in, who needs to be out. And then they have a sheet to go down. That's the big for me.
There we go. I think we got a good plan. We're going to do like a bunch of pre-ceremony pictures. And then right when the ceremony's over, we're doing a huge group picture immediately, the family pictures immediately. And then everyone else goes to the happy hour. And then I'm done. Like
it's the
there's a
family
chance to
ones.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. The family ones in, out, this side of the family, just the kids, just with the adult. Like, yeah, that's boom.
I will tell you, Hayden, the partner told me, she sent me a text showing me the color of her dress, which is like bright purple. I said, okay, I don't have anything to match that, but I can get a purple tie. And more importantly, some new clean purple Jordans I can wear to Hayden's wedding. So I do got some new sneakers to unveil to you Saturday night.
Proud of you, Daigle.
Do it.
Hold on, Daigle. How many bags you bring? Did you cave?
I had this talk with her family. No, it's still only going to be one bag for all weekend. I learned on YouTube years ago. So Justin, also, not only do I enjoy being homeless, I also only pack a backpack everywhere. Ian has seen it many times.
Even when our company is paying for the trip, he only brings a backpack.
I don't ever check luggage. I think it's a waste of time. So
what is your suit going?
I learned on YouTube years ago how to fold the suit without getting it wrinkled. Also, in the worst case scenario, I know how to use an iron, and I can find an iron. So
The thing
I
is,
assure you,
you
I
can
can
always
figure it
trust
out.
YouTube. YouTube has never lied. Like in the history of YouTube,
I've done it before though. I've actually done it. Packed the suit in a backpack a couple times. So if you can loophole being a minimalist, like I have not only been a minimalist, I've also loopholed my way to learn even less. Like that's just how I like living.
I'm just mad. I'm angry inside about this whole situation. I always have been.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, I've already packed the
show me our
sneakers.
QBs. Show me our
I packed the
QBs. What do we
sneakers in a
have?
backpack, by the way. So here we go. This is where we're at still. Good call on waiting.
Oh, we're drafting with Siege. Shout out Siege.
Oh, we are so going Trevor Lawrence, Evan Ingram.
Oh, I drafted with line of scrimmage yesterday. This dude's getting after it.
I love, if we can get, so Fields went, this guy's not going to grab a QB unless he's just trying to screw us over. So we'll grab our Lawrence, and I'm trying to just wait for the delay just to make sure a line of scrimmage doesn't screw us. But I love Tunyon. I think he's in a fantastic position this year. And I think kind of people just forget what he did 2 years ago and the rapport that he had with Rodgers. And considering he's like the only returning real like athletic player, I think he's set up for a good year.
What if 2022 Robert Tunyon is 2020 Robert Tunyon? Just crazy enough to work.
Eight touchdowns, but like I think he has more catches this year. Like I think he's going to be utilized at least early in the season. I mean, hopefully he stays, but I don't trust Rodgers with rookies. Like, no, that's why Amari never hit the field last year. Yeah.
He was also like a 27-year-old breakout. So, of course, he had a regression year, and now he bounces back. That's how these things work. So, I also I think I have Robert Tunyon in like 90% of 16 leagues. Like, he's the player I always keep on clicking. And also, we can get we'll get Evan Ingram later. Hey,
way later. Yeah.
Everyone watching, forget about that.
Because we need three. Yeah.
There's like some new offensive coaches there too. Like Tunyon, one of the problems the year why he didn't have like more receiving numbers was because he was only playing like 55-60% of snaps, even catching all those touchdowns. So if he can go out there and actually run a route, 80% of Rodgers dropbacks, like then we actually have a ceiling. He's not Kelsey, but we're drafting him in round 13. He doesn't need to be.
I love it. And so when I'm thinking like the rest of the draft right now, so 14, 15, I think we can grab one tight end. And then probably not try to reach on Ingram. It's close. If we want to, we can. But that's where I'm starting to look at the running back too and see whether Hines or some other running back is to kind of complete that fourth. And I think that positions us pretty strongly into the draft of we got our two QBs. We have our three running backs with the one late guy. Our wide receivers, we caught up with that Claypool and MVS value. And then we just need to get three tight ends that we feel good about.
Have you been – go ahead, Hayden.
Just going back to like the Nyheim Hines, Jonathan Taylor stuff. Is Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt too early to do that? Is like part of this like a price thing where like the second running back is happening so late?
Yep. And ideally, it's actually the first running back is also late too, where there's a bit more ambiguity and such. So like Zeke and Pollard is my example from the past couple of years that I would not do because you're drafting before it was first, second rounder and then 9th, 10th. Now it's like fourth and 9th, 10th. But without a doubt that if there's situations, so I don't know, if you wanted to go Chubb and D'Ernest Johnson because you're making a bet that not Chubb, Kareem Hunt and D'Ernest Johnson, and you're making a bet that like, hey, maybe Chubb gets hurt. Now both of those have a very good likelihood of outperforming expectation, and you still get that yin and yang opportunity for the playoffs.
Makes sense.
Now, whether Hunt actually makes the team, I don't know, but just giving an example. Yeah.
Okay. How much dead money would they eat if they get rid of Hunt? Do we know? I can look it up.
I think it would be a trade. They save $6 million trade or release either way. I think that D'Ernest Johnson, he hasn't signed his exclusive rights tag yet. So I think he's the one that has a higher chance of getting moved of the two, but I don't think they'll go into the season with both of them.
That's right. Hunt they did not give him a friendly deal, obviously. But yeah, that's the only problem with D'Ernest because, I mean, we had that game where they said Nick Chubb was a little bit banged up. But like it was a must-win game, and D'Ernest Johnson literally played over Nick Chubb in it. And that's always been kind of the allure of having Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. You're one injury away from like a legit top 5 talent being a top 5 fantasy guy now with the workload. But seeing D'Ernest Johnson like really just kind of form a committee with whichever one was getting hurt wasn't great to see for the Chubb and Hunt upside.
Never forget last offseason when people had conversations over Demetric Felton, who did actually permanently move to running back this offseason, no longer a wide receiver.
Dude, he didn't even play running back, and people were trying to say he was like the guy to have. Like,
he played running back in the preseason when there were no other running backs available.
Yeah,
because I remember having this conversation for waiver wire for that Broncos Thursday night game because he was the backup running back.
and he had some dude. He low key had a fun like 40-second highlight film last year. Like I'm not hating on
40 seconds.
You can make 40 seconds.
career.
Ian would know how long the highlight tapes are.
I tried to go 90 with Tua today. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I was like, if I put this out here, people are gonna quote tweet it and be like, "This is a joke of a highlight film."
The 24-hour Tua news film. I mean, so first we get the video, then we get the posting that someone's getting a new like video producer from Miami. Then we get a new video from that Tyreek kind of posted out that even the first pass wasn't great. The second one, you could tell Tyreek was running a bit into it, but it was just like, come on.
Yeah, even the Tyreek were a couple of questionable balls on that one too.
Like none of them were actually football footage where you can see in one film. Like,
no, I will say this: the last
like Alex Jones highlight tapes.
I will say this about Tua last year: like he would have these games where he would complete like 80% of his passes and have a really good game, but he would make one or two throws that would just go viral on social media, and no one would even watch the rest of the game. So it just he doesn't have the he doesn't really have that flair that a lot of these other quarterbacks do. And I don't think he's going to do much in fantasy other than just make Tyreek a baller.
All right. What's going on here? Is Hines available? Yeah, Hines just went. Obviously, that's fine.
So is this the range where you would start looking for your fourth, fifth running back?
Not after what's available. Yeah, in theory, but not with what's available. The difference between this and getting later on is the same. David Bell is pretty substantial value right now. And then I love Tyler Higbee from a tight end perspective. And I think like when we look later on, if we have Logan Thomas, Evan Ingram, there's a decent amount of third tight ends we could have that I feel good about, even if Ingram, gets sniped.
I know we say this every year about the late round tight ends, but you can make these arguments. I mean,
this is the best case in the last 5 years for late round tight end, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if we're trying to match the 2020 Tunyon, who is then the 2021, like Dawson Knox, I think you could also Gerald Everett in that conversation. Irv Smith is moving up a little bit. Really down the list is Hayden Hurst. I'm not sure if he's going to have the full-time job over Drew Sample, but weirder things have happened.
So Cooper, Bray, all those guys.
What are you guys thinking for tight end now? Higbee got sniped.
I like Njoku.
David Bell.
We did just get David Bell. I don't mind Njoku. Get a little mini Deshaun Watson stack.
I don't hate it. I don't feel that
because we have Nick Chubb as well.
Do you mean Jacoby Brissett stack?
For 6 games, yeah.
Hey, for the playoffs, it's Deshaun. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
We're gonna end up drafting at least one more. So
is this for sure a 2 quarterback build?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so.
Definitely.
So too.
Because we're really just banking on Lamar.
I love the work that you did around the 3 quarterback situations, and I do think it makes a lot of sense. But for me personally, if I'm going Lamar, with the playoff style thing, I'm just saying Lamar is going to carry us through, and less like Lawrence has the big double stack game.
So we still need one more tight end.
At least one more tight end for sure, and then what? One more.
At least one more running back. We only have 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like 2, 4, 8, 3, and that leaves one more spot for likely running back or wide receiver.
Jamal, maybe this would be a good spot.
I think so.
Talk about it on the comeback.
Fair.
And so are you against Justin then, like opposed completely to even when we take a guy later like Tunyon, 4 tight ends?
I know that there's that wonky data around it and stuff, but I think if I was going to know that, I would have had to go on like 4 in a row at the very end.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like for me, it's got to be the rest of the build. It's got to be really strong. Yeah. But what does he say? So like the running back conversation, because if we're only going 4 running backs, this 4th running back, it's not just the best available. Like you want to find one that kind of fits the team. And so I saw Tyrion was available. I'm like, I'm a big fan of him, but this isn't the build where I would grab him because I'm caring more about kind of a 4th running back that can provide me points here and there if I need an injury and someone's down. It's like the Jamal is a good example there where his 8 to 9 points when there's a bye week or someone's hurt is more important than the Tyrion of, hey, maybe he can break out at the end and have a strong week.
once you get to this point in the draft too, like there's just not many guys left that actually have Jamal's like 3-down skill set. And like,
And
you know,
money.
In money. Yeah, exactly. And that was the other thing.
More than
with,
the BBM3 winner, right? That's all we care about.
I have that list memorized already.
That was the other thing about Foreman and Haskins. Like, I understand they don't necessarily fit that mold, but they're playing for the Panthers and Titans, who are like the two teams we have seen kind of give that big workload even to underqualified running backs. But, you know, the ceiling is, I hear you on that point.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't like petition or rally to get like $2,001 to first again, just so then you could have a whole nother list of those 2 million instead of the wonkiness.
Yep.
Or maybe next year those players are going to petition for 2,001,001 so they can make it above. But
I'm worried about. I'm going to cross off too many names next year. If this thing keeps growing, the list is going to get pretty scary. I already can't draft the Ronald Jones and James Washington. Those are the two that are kind of scaring me the most.
Yeah, I can see that.
Justin, if you're drafting receivers at around 17 or 18, when we get to the bottom here, do you find it better to prioritize with your stacks, or are you just going for the player you perceive to still just be the best option? Because I'm still trying to figure out, like, and I'm open-ended. It's more rhetorical because I'm not sure just yet, like, how to treat my receivers in round 17 and 18.
Far more stacks. Almost always stacks. When we get to August, I'll then start going for a little more uniqueness and finding players that haven't been drafted throughout the summer. So then if that player is an ASB and breaks out, I now have uniqueness in the playoffs. But I'm not trying for that now just because too much stuff can happen where I thought that player was unique, but turns out they weren't. Okay. Let's figure out. Ingram's the easy one. Yep. Love that.
Yep. Okay.
I can pitch Julio because he's a free agent, and in theory, he can be Lamar's number 2 receiver. I think it's at least somewhat realistic.
Okay.
Robbie getting traded or just being the
That
number
works.
2 receiver again.
I like
So
both of them.
let's look through running back. If we were thinking through the running back, who would we consider?
You mentioned
Haskins.
Foreman.
I don't love / have a strong opinion on any. So if any of you guys do, I heard Haskins. We've talked about Foreman. I wouldn't go this low. It'd be one of the top.
So I'm saying the drop off is so bad at this point.
I would go Julio.
These are the last 2 guys. That was what I was saying. Yeah. Let's wait it out.
The only other thing is, if we're going to go 5 running backs and we want to grab 2 of these guys, I almost feel better about that. And that gives us the optionality. Do you want to go Haskins? Foreman? Go Foreman.
Yeah, I was about to make an executive decision, start Foreman. I think Foreman's the better ad
Foreman
here.
has a better chance.
Especially because we don't
McCaffrey back like to 70% and just like all passed on shit. It could
like
happen.
we have a strong enough core at running back to wait on Foreman. That's why he's the perfect ad here. Like hopefully we get something out of him, but we can wait on Foreman.
Yeah. And like when R18, last pick of the draft, I don't mind if we end up with a 5 running back build here, even though we started with 3, because I mean the last 2 picks are it's not that big. Yes, Julio could have been a decent production performer for us. I don't know. It's still a stretch.
Is Julio going to go? Is Julio typically going on draft? I don't spend picks on.
He'll
him
get
yet,
drafted.
So. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we could get him at the end. There he goes. Especially with us doing a live feed. And
If Julio goes to Green Bay, what round do you think he's going?
High 13th.
Yeah. 13th. I feel like he would have I feel like if that happened, he would then have the highest ADP or be like right there with Christian Watson. He'd be like 48, wide receiver 48-ish.
Duvernay versus Tylan Wallace. Go.
Duvernay.
It's got to be Duvernay.
Why? ETR is on Wallace.
Well, really?
Duvernay's the one starting. I guess you could say, are they anticipating the Landry signing? Duvernay usually out of the slot. Man.
For me, the argument is Duvernay is likely not going to be the number 2 wide receiver if they bring someone else in. And now we're drafting Brashad Perryman last year because of the role that we expect, while Tylan Wallace has more of an upside and potential to actually be a bit of a breakout, even if that likelihood is 20% or 10%.
Tylan Wallace, I do agree, does have more upside just because he plays the role of having more upside. Duvernay, even like his last year, I wrote the blurb at NBC. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a 90% slot rate in his final year at Texas. And so, yeah, I would just assume he's going to start with that role. But yes, that role can also be replaced by a potential Jarvis Landry or someone else.
I think my case for Duvernay, though, is like he's played the slot, but he wasn't a slot receiver only throughout his entire college career. And he's 210 pounds and he runs like sub 4.4. Like I think that he can win downfield as well. Like this dude is like crazy athlete. And I mean, at Texas, he had like crazy good stats at Texas too. So
Dude, he's been returning really well too. He's good with the ball in his hands.
yeah, I think he's good.
I know we love returners in college. Have we started seeing that returners is actually not a great thing in the pros? Where like
No,
we
I'm
started
saying in the NFL, he's been returning well, I think.
No, that's what I'm saying though. Like,
Led the
do
league in
you get a
punch
little the
return.
Isaiah McKenzie situation where like teams value you as a returner and then we don't see you as much like in the wide receiver? I know like from a projection wise, we love it in college, but like there's not that many of these kind of younger guys who are a returner and then that, we see that on the field as well as a receiver. I don't know.
That's what's so interesting about this year's rookie class is a lot of those receivers do have return, like more so than I ever remember charting. A lot of them were punt and kick returners for at least a couple of seasons in college.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to say LaVisca, but he's not even starting at this point.
No,
God.
but he's a stack. I mean, he's a stack partner. I thought like Marvin Jones, I was thinking the time before, but he got sniped. But like I thought that would have been a good fit.
I don't think LaVisca is like terrible. Like my goodness.
I mean, round 18 LaVisca is better than like round 6 LaVisca. So that's why I could be easily convinced.
How far we've come.
Or a couple of these last second options. DuVernay just got sniped, so that makes that
Siege
decision.
again. And what about running back? Because that's the other option is if we wanted to go. I think we're at right now LaVisca or running back. What do you guys think for running back? Is there a Sony situation where we think like
Sony's not even on the Rams? Come on.
No, I know, but he's Dolphins.
Yeah. No, I'm not hating on it. I'm talking about the it's on the abbreviation. I wasn't calling you out.
What about Mark Ingram without Kamara if he's suspended?
I think
Never mind.
yeah, I don't know. 2 seconds. We're going with
LaVisca.
This pick will not matter.
We're going LaVisca.
Stack. There you go. We got the stack as the tiebreaker.
I can't believe Mark Ingram is really the Saints RB2, and like they had a whole offseason to maybe do something about it.
He was
I
fine.
Sony Michel. I thought Sony was going to be a great fit in my mind, but
yeah. I mean, they didn't even disclose how much money the Dolphins gave him, so I don't know. Can't think money was an issue.
So, superhero RB essentially, and then we waited until round 17 for our next running back. But from there, Lamar, is this typically also, Justin, where you try to get your QB1? 4th, 5th round?
I think it's based off the player. Lamar and Kyler are the ones that I think I'm going to be pretty heavy on where they are right now. If I knew that I could have gotten, we ended up not being able to get Kyler in the next one, but like if I know I can get Kyler, so Kyler went 2 picks later. Where he's actually his ADP, like feels like that just feels like a screaming value. But I love the guys that have that upside, but aren't costing me the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round capital. Because I'll pause one more thing. Like if you look at the wide receivers that are getting drafted around Lamar, and then look at the wide receivers that are getting drafted like 2 rounds later, I don't think there's actually that much different between like Cortland Sutton and Brandon Cooks. Like a little, and maybe the Jerry Jeudy enough, maybe that steamed Cortland Sutton a little today, which whatever. But like the difference between a Lamar and a Tom Brady is substantial from an upside perspective.
Completely agree. Then we rattled off receivers. Nitpicking, but we knew we were going receivers. Most importantly, building around our stacks. And then from there, we stuck with the late tight end build. Hayden, anything you would have changed or any takeaways? Since I know also you've discussed other methods to draft as well.
Well, I've always been open to any of them, like 0 RB, robust RB, like the actual win rates on all of them. I think like superhero RB is the best of them, or anchor RB. But like when the board falls in a certain way, you have to know how to draft, and that's what we did with today. Like robust RB, I don't think will ever be like a 21% advance rate type of build. But when the board falls to you, I'd rather have Fournette over Tyreek Hill, and I thought we did it right.
And since T Bear is here, he said review T Bear. I guess he's T Benny. Is that what he meant?
Yeah, he's in the 7th spot with Eckler.
Cool. There he is. Okay. He said, asked him to review. So Justin, we'll kick it to you. Started Eckler, then went. I love Mike Evans. His ADP has finally caught up to where he should go, though. Keenan Allen, still love Keenan Allen as well. Did the 3 Charger stack. That's how he started.
4. Eckler.
Eckler. Right.
That's a
Onslaught. Lot. He got Brady to add to Mike Evans. And then from there, Gage as well with Brady. Schultz. This is actually a sick team.
Better than our team. Fuck.
Schultz. That's also where a tier drop off happens at tight end. Lazard, Penny, Gronk with the Brady stack. Yeah. And then we're looking at Landry, Fant, McKissick, Scott, Berrios to round out.
I like it. On a player-by-player basis, I feel like he reached a little, and I'm not in love with the last like 3 or 4 picks of his. But
first 11, 12 rounds, though.
Yeah, from a stack-wise, the rest is fantastic. And usually, I don't love investing 4 on an offense in like those first 5 rounds or so, but I do think like, hey, Chargers are a bit of an outlier. If you want to get them, you have to do it at that place. And that is a team that could be, hey, a top 2-3 offense in the league. I think it's a great team. Well done.
And to have all 4 fall to you, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty great. So with that, Justin, any other final thoughts on how people should be approaching Best Ball Mania 3 before we get out of here?
Gosh, have fun. It's only May. Don't go too much. Like you only have 150 of these. There's going to be more puppies and things like that you can jump in. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. Have some fun. I'll see you in the rims.
Hayden, what do you have coming up this week besides your wedding?
Nothing at all. You're not going to hear from me. I mean, I need to go to therapy. If you guys hear from me within these next 10 days, I need to go to therapy. I need help.
Ian, what's happening at Pro Football Focus?
Starting on, actually, first of all, I had a great conversation with Pat Carrain about some of the rookies and kind of how we've adjusted 2022 expectations. So check out the PFF Fantasy Football podcast for that. Starting next Monday, going to be rolling through every single Division 1 per week, team preview style articles on the website. We're officially in the off season, boys. Draft season and stuff, that's fine. I kind of let the experts like, whoever, you guys know who I'm talking about. But now we're here. Players have landed. I'm ready to go.
And with that, 44.com, John Paulson's projections launch tomorrow, Friday afternoon. And from there, next week's very big with Best Ball Strategy. My Best Ball tiers come out. Have been waiting to fine tune with Paulson's projections. Very big week. Also, Hayden's wedding. So again, cheers to you, Hayden. Congratulations. Justin, thanks again for joining the show. Next week, everyone. I don't know if Hayden will be here. I have no idea your honeymoon schedule. No.
I'm out.
All right. Next week, we're going to have a guest. We'll see everyone next